Welcome to Life Workshop, where we discuss the forgotten basics. Hi everyone, as usual.
Best co-host. Hi everybody.
And best host, Mo. So the subject of this episode is to be sensitive or not. Nowadays, we notice sometimes some people, they use more often, this the word that, I'm sensitive, and they wear it as a badge of honor. And I'm just wondering, is it? But before we get started, where does this sensitivity come from? When we say I'm sensitive about something, does it make the subject really sensitive?
So where does sensitivity come from?
For example, okay. When I say, oh, by the way, Doug, how much do you weigh? Or how much money do you make?
That's a personal question.
Okay. Or how old are you? Well, you can call it. Again, is this personal thing, is it sensitive or it is not sensitive?
Yeah, well, you can say for three of those questions, and this is just my own perspective, I suppose, I'd say one is a sensitive question, the other is not, but I don't really have a reason for you why.
And that is exactly it.
Yeah.
Because in different cultures it's different.
And just to be clear, it's the question about my age. I don't like that
one. Okay, he's older than me, but...
And if anybody believes that...
But so the question exactly is, sometimes when we become sensitive about something, what is the reasoning behind it? Mm-hmm. Is it something cultural? Is it something that, for whatever reason, it has become important to us, or somebody made it as if it's important? Mm-hmm. Or sometimes, for example, some people, they want to ask a question for asking for help. Mm-hmm. Even, I'm not sure if I should ask this. I don't want to hurt your feeling, but can you do this for me? They're just so worried about asking a question and worried about hearing a no. Mm-hmm. It has become... Go ahead.
So why... Because you do this a lot, and you ask the sensitive question to anybody. And not only do you ask those questions, but you keep on asking them, and the more you ask, the less people want to say, but you just keep on asking.
I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah.
No, but they should get used to it then.
Some of them, yes. Lots of other people, no.
But
why? I honestly don't know. This is just talking it out, but I don't know why people are. Why some sensitivity in some places and not in others.
It is something rather, as I said, it's a value system that we have created. Mm-hmm. It is based on the value system. We give it importance or we take away importance of something. And then it becomes sensitive issue or not so sensitive. And because of that, in different parts of the world, there is...
That's why there's different sensitivities.
But now I'm going to just to give it a bit of a more of an objective thing. For example, when it comes to flying a plane, I think we don't, regardless of what culture you're from, where you come from, regardless of what the backgrounds are, when it comes to a plane, you become more sensitive about the fact that definitely should be a pilot to fly that damn thing.
That's a good start.
Yeah. And then the plane should be really in a good shape. You should check, things very frequently. So that is, for example, that level of sensitivity is required. It's more of an objective thing. But when it comes to a car, it's not as important. If the tire is not the best, the worst case scenario, the tire is you get a flat tire.
Right.
But if it's a plane, the tire, there is something issues with it, the landing might become a kind of a so good of a landing.
In this example, is the sensitivity based on the consequences?
A kind of, yes. Consequences, and is there some validity to it?
Right, yeah.
Otherwise,
what are the odds, and what is what's the effect?
Correct.
Of what will happen?
What does it happen? Yeah. What happens if, for example, something goes wrong? When it comes again to some other issues, for example, let's say how much money do you make, or your age, or your weight, or your height, or I don't know, some stuff. you know, we make it a kind of more valuable. In some cases, might be because, for example, if you want to get child support from me, then I try to hide as much income as I can.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I didn't have anything else to say, so I had to come up with this.
yeah, we know that's not going to happen.
But otherwise, you know, what is the importance? You know, unless again, what is the problem if somebody, you know, asks that question? I'm not necessarily asking people those questions, by the way. Unless if I want to collect child support.
So, I mean, if the how much money you make question, because let's call it Western society, wealth and how much you make is a lot more important than, I know, a really poor country where there just isn't any money, there isn't any wealth. So you're saying that should you ask somebody like myself, how much money do you make? And you ask somebody who's got very little, how much money do you make? Will I be offended and the person with nothing be fine?
Again, remember, they can have their reasons to get offended too.
They could, yeah.
So people, if they want to get offended, you get offended. You will find your reasons. And if you don't want to get offended, you don't get offended. I said, these are the things that we created. Because sometimes it has happened. I have asked some questions. Oh my God, you can't ask that question. Why can I not? You know, I just did. You don't want to answer, say, you know, I'm not going to answer.
Nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Or, no, I would rather not to say. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, there is nothing specific about it. But we give it importance. Now, again, we should see the consequences of it. Now, when I say this sensitivity that we create around something, you know, again, what does it get us? Does it serve us or does it disserve? For example, I'm going to now twist it a little bit differently. The sensitivity that we have about a plane to fly and the checking that is done on it before every flight, and you know the frequency that they should be checked, and then those things, if we go apply those things to a car, and the car should go through the same checkpoints as a plane before you can drive it, the whole country would collapse.
Yeah, I'd be walking.
Yeah, that is it. So that sensitivity in that level would ruin it. There will be more damage than help. Is it good to be able to tell that the tire doesn't blow up, I don't get a flat tire? Yes, it is a good idea. But the cost and the consequences of checking that is a lot worse than just having a flat tire.
Right.
Or at least, you know, in a statistic way. Maybe you can say that, oh, if you get the tire blows, then you can roll the car, you can die. You know what? Sure, those things can happen too. But statistically, that's not the case. Most often, it's just a flat tire. So we want to be careful with that. Another thing, for example, that normally I say, a Lamborghini is supposed to be a good car. But can you imagine Ferrari?
Fast car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Imagine if we would say we want to make the city streets good enough that the Lamborghini can drive on it.
Not in Regina.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that is doable,
Yeah.
but that would be a nightmare. You know, how much money would it cost? So the consequences of fixing the city and the streets, roads, for the car to drive, this type of car,
Yeah.
is going to be a lot worse. You're better off not to have that car,
Right.
or to damage the car, than fixing the streets in that sense. But there is a level, you know, and I'm sure, for example, city hopefully has some sort of a standardization that at what point it is crossing that barrier. Now, when it comes to the normal life, now I'm going to bring it back to the real case scenarios. In life, when, for example, we become sensitive about the way we speak, about the subjects that we talk, sometimes that level of, you know, sensitivity, it is paralyzing. For example, I had a friend of mine, and she's a good friend most of the time.
Until you asked how much money she makes.
No, but you know, once, for example, I was talking, it was a kind of a more of a serious conversation that we had. And then she was finding every single mistakes in my words or the intonations or the thing that I was making.
Okay.
That I said, look, if you do this, I cannot speak. If I want to be so careful with my words that, just to have a normal conversation, and you use that against me versus helping me to improve. Instead of you coming and telling, okay, Mo, is this what you meant? You would grab the word, you would say, you said that, so you were wrong, and you would attack. I said, when you do this, or I should not speak, or the only thing that I can speak is about how the weather is. A very light, conversation that there is nothing to it. I said, that makes it very difficult. So the sensitivity in that case, I think, was paralyzing. And it's more damaging.
Right. But and this makes this whole topic difficult, because that's very much emotional reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
And what if it was the next day and she did that? You might have had a different reaction.
Actually, not me. I don't think I would change as much.
Yeah.
Normally, I say this: emotions start when logic stops.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're more logical, there's no emotions, just logical. But as soon as the logic, we don't know why we are doing this, and we just rely on our emotions, then that can be, a yo-yo thing. And depends at what point you get me, this point of the yo-yo or the end of it. So again, to be sensitive is something else. Now I'm going to, again, give it another twist. I had a client of mine that once I was talking, he said that, I said about the same subject, sensitivity. He said, I don't know, for example, on TV. He said, first of all, people, they have become very sensitive. I said, well, just let's see. It a little bit has become, that is true. And then that you have to be really careful with what you say. I said, I'm not too sure. Yes, you have to be a little bit more.
You got to be tactful and you got to be respectful.
Correct. Those things, correct. Yeah. But the fact, you want to be honest. You don't want to hide your feelings.
Right.
So, and I'm going back to this, that say normally Canadians are too polite to be honest. And this is not, unfortunately, a compliment. So we really want to be honest. I said, no, actually, if you are honest, he said, but people, they complain. I said, when you say people, who are these people?
Who are you talking of? Yeah.
Because when we talk about people, which very frequently it is said, is as if the whole world, or they're coming from Mars. Mm-hmm. It is us. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, often people, generally, as I said, people, generally, we like honesty.
Right.
And sometimes it comes across a bit hard, but again, generally, we like it. And then sometimes maybe I don't like it at the moment, but when I go home and think about that, say that, what, that's fair enough. Mm-hmm. So, and again, if we practice this more, that we become more honest, more straightforward, actually it's not such a bad thing. We all benefit, because when we are not, we have lied. And we have become like politicians, that I'm going to say something just nice.
But yeah, I 100% agree that you got to be honest and you got to remain polite to some extent. So it doesn't mean that you can go out and just say whatever you want and be a complete rude and nasty person.
Well, there is a bit of a difference between the two. If it's not needed, I'm not going to come and randomly say, hey, Doug, you look ugly today. I'm not going to do that.
Similar to, oh my, it looks like you've put on some weight. What's going on?
It is on my muscles, yeah. But if, for example, the person asks me, how do I look today? Do I look good? Then I'm going to be very honest. Is that, well, you looked better yesterday. Or hopefully you will look better tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. But, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But sometimes some of the information needs not to be shared. However, sometimes it does too, because, for example, myself, just recently, I put on a little bit of weight. I got a bit of a belly, and I have a friend. But
I knew it.
She is, what I should say, she's Ukrainian, not a Canadian. She said, hey, Mo, you're putting on some belly. Of course, me, to be honest, I actually liked it because I really didn't pay attention. Mm-hmm. And said, really? And I looked, I said, oh my God, yeah, she's right. So I immediately worked on it and I lost 3 pounds
Check
within,
my belly.
within
Oh.
7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
So again, is it a bad thing or a good thing? As far as I'm concerned, it was a very good thing. And I thanked her for saying that. And the interesting part, the interesting part, when she told me that, the day after, I was with another friend who is Canadian. I said, I have put on some weight, haven't I? No, you look very good. I said, yesterday, this friend of mine, said that, I have put on and I have some belly. She said, no, oh my God, did she say that? So yes, she did. And she's right. I have put on some weight. So this we have learned, and we give it a connotation. We give it a bad connotation or a good connotation. As far as I'm concerned, she simply stated a fact, and it was an unsolicited, advice. But actually, I appreciated that,
Yeah.
and that's it. There was nothing wrong with that. Actually,
What
nothing
if-
was
what
wrong
if
with that.
you
I'm
say
glad
some-
that she said.
But what if somebody would say that to someone who would take offense to that?
This is the thing. That person is sensitive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I would
And-
say this is where that the person who gets offended by that, maybe you want to think about this for a second. Shall I get offended or not?
Why am I getting offended?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there some element of truth to it?
As you said,
or- or I
make
would
it
say-
more logical and
Yeah.
make it more like fact.
Or I would say, you know what, I'm cool with that. I understand what you're saying, but you know what, I'm okay with that.
You're wrong.
But again, it is the sensitivity. It is the thing that we are creating it. It is an emotion thing, as you said. And emotions, I have said, the way you think dictates the way you feel.
Correct.
So it is the way of thinking that decides to make this feeling good or bad. But when somebody says something, if it's true, it's true. And honestly, I would have rather if people would be more honest and come and tell me.
Yeah.
Even if it's unsolicited, I'm okay even with that one person. I know not everybody is, but we have to practice that and not to become too sensitive, because when we become too sensitive that we don't allow others to speak, or they have to think about the way that the words that they choose,
Yeah.
what we are encouraging in a nutshell, we are encouraging them to be dishonest. We are encouraging them to lie to us and just approve us, not correct us. And I'm not saying to provide the honest feedback, and I don't mean necessarily their feedback is necessarily correct, but it's a feedback
Yeah.
and gives you a different perspective. And then in reality, what we all becomes politicians, that we want to say something nice to each other, but very, very unreal and, lies.
Yeah, fake.
Yes. And that is how we make our own lives fake and unrealistic. That is where I'm going with that. As simple as this, there is nothing to it. I keep saying life is simple. We make it complicated. Let us practice honesty. If we get, kind of annoyed by somebody being honest to us, maybe want to sit and think, well, is there some element of truth to it? And,
Okay. We've spoken about this before, but how do you process, or what do you do with feedback? You've got if somebody
again,
gives you your feedback, you have a decision to make if you want to.
so
do
how
something
you
with it or
feel,
not.
yeah. And again, how you feel is your responsibility, because
Yeah,
sometimes
it's
people
your
said, you made
decision.
me mad.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't make me mad. I decided to get mad.
Right.
For example, when that friend of mine, she said, you've got some belly, I could have chosen to become mad.
Yeah. Don't be
But-
so sensitive.
Yeah. But, as a matter of fact, I said, in all honesty, if anything, I appreciated it.
Yeah.
Because I missed on it. Anyways, if you don't mind, we are going to finish the podcast here, but we are going to come back. I would like to kind of dig into this a bit more.
Okay.
Again, remember, life is simple. We make it complicated. Let us practice being a bit more honest with each other and with ourselves more than anything else. Okay, you guys have a good one. Take
See you
care.
guys.